Good afternoon and welcome to At the Corrals. My name is Shannon Williams and I work for University of Idaho Illinois County Extension Office, and here today I want to talk to you about giving injections. Last week we talked about storage and management of your vaccine before you even get to the corrals. Some of the things you need to remember from that one is, do you have a thermometer in your fridge? Are your vaccines stored at the proper temperature? And have you pre-cooled your cooler so that when you do head to the corrals, your vaccine is still stored where it needs to be according to label instructions. Well, there's a few more things that you need to gather up as you head down to the corrals before you put the cattle in the alley. As you look at your animals, if you think about what animals you're going to be giving injections to, whether it's for a vaccine or if you're doctoring, is needles. Needles make a huge difference. Both they're easier on you when they're nice and sharp, and they're easier on the animal. So think about the product you're using and the animal size that you're going to be vaccinating or giving an injection to. You can get needles in lots of different lengths. Most of them come from 1/2 to 1 inch, and depending on the size of the animal and how deep you need to go, that will determine the length of the needle that you want. For smaller animals, you'll want to stay shorter needles. For larger animals, you may go with a longer needle. You also need to think about your product and how thick it is. The thicker the needle it is, the larger gauge needle you need to utilize. Now, needles kind of run backwards. The lower the number, the larger diameter the needle is. So if you have a very thick product, you're going to want to use a 14 or 16 gauge needle. And if you have a product that's thinner, or like water, you can get by with an 18 or a 20 gauge needle. If you're working a large number of cattle, you want to make sure that you have plenty of needles available and that they're all nice and clean and that they're the right size and the right gauge. You'll also, if you're going to be vaccinating with a modified live, you'll want to make sure that you have a transfer needle to mix those medications. This will make your life much easier rather than trying to get it from using a syringe to get the liquid and into the solid. You want to be sure that you have your vaccines guns nice and clean. Wash them out. They should have been washed after you used them last time, dried out. Make sure all the washers inside of them are nice and tight and they're nicely sealed. The other thing I like to do is to take and make sure that my vaccine gun really is giving out the vaccine that it says. So if my medication says 5 cc's, that with every pull of the trigger of this, I get 5 cc's. So to do that, for today, so you can see this a little bit better, I have taken and filled this little bottle with water and dyed it blue. And we're going to fill this syringe up. And so my syringe gun today is set on 5 cc's. So I'm going to fill it to the 20 mark. And then at 5 cc's, with every pull of the trigger, I should pull that trigger 4 times. 1, and as we can see, I've got some things I need to tighten up here. 2, 3, 4. 4 doses of 5 cc's each. I know that this is giving the amount that I hope it is. So as you are taking and packing up and determining how many needles you need to look on your bottles. How many doses are in a bottle? This bottle has 50 doses. BQA recommends that you change your needles every 10 to 15 animals. So waiting until you empty a vial of your vaccine before you change your needles isn't a good idea. As we have worked in the classroom with producers getting BQA certified, one of our favorite things to do is to give them a piece of hide and a sharp needle on the end of a syringe and give vaccinations and have them rank the amount of force it takes to push that needle through that neck hide with each injection. With 1 meaning it's sliding right in, to 4, I'm having to use a little bit of force. Most producers, when they walk away, realize, and I'll say, that within about 15 injections, they can tell a difference in that needle. It's got burrs on it, it's got hair on it, it's got muck on it. It's time to be changed. So when you're looking at your bottles and you're thinking, okay, what's a way I can keep track of how many injections I'm giving per needle? Look at the dosage. Even if you only give half this vial, you're still at 25, which is more. But this one calls for 2 cc's per head. So if you were to put in between 20 and 30 cc's in your multi-dose gun, when you empty that gun, you need to change your needles. This is going to do 2 things for you. Because if I'd given all my vaccinations with this needle, then stuck it back in to fill the next load up, I just contaminated all of my vaccine in this bottle with what was ever on my needle that's been in the last 20 head of cattle. So if you change with every load of your vaccine gun, it will keep this so it's not contaminated. As you bring your animals down the chute and down the alley, you want to do it quietly and easily. It does a couple of things. 1, it makes it easier on you. 2, they will restrain much easier, which makes it easier to give them their injections. So don't use the hot shots, use your sorting flags and your sorting sticks quietly, have a quiet crew. The corral language, it just makes everybody tense. And so if you're nice and quiet and think things through and move slowly and calmly, it will help a great deal. It'll save on the corral language. And if you're working cattle with your spouse, you might even leave the corral and still be friends. Now as you're getting them in, BQA recommendations that all injections go in front of the shoulder. And this is true whether you're working cattle or your sheep or anything else, but move it in front. There's no meat up here. When you start moving vaccinations or injections to the shoulders, or heaven forbid, the hindquarters, you take a chance and run a risk of damaging that meat. Having been through meat plants, they're still getting bruises and damaged meat from injection sites. That has to be cut out and trimmed away, and the packer gets no money for it, and so therefore it comes out of your pocket also with the trickle-down effect. You're going to go through lots of needles, and so then what do you do with them later? To dispose of your needles, you can take a clear or a hard plastic jug, put your needles in here. When it gets full, put the lid on nice and tight, duct tape it, and then write on it, do not recycle. This is an approved sharps container in the state of Idaho. But most important, you can have all the needles you need. You can know where you want it. You can have things stored correctly and all of that. But if you do not talk to the people that are working your cattle and giving the injections, everything will go south. It's your cattle, and so you have a responsibility to explain to them how you want it done, and then see to it that they do it. This can be hard with friends and neighbors, and sometimes even with family members. But for beef producers to turn out the best quality product there is, they need to follow the BQA recommendations, and it needs to be done right every time. So in wrapping this up, a few things I want you to remember. 1, have plenty of needles of the right size and the right gauge. Make a plan so you change your needles every 10 to 15 head. Give them in the correct BQA approved spots up in the front of the shoulder, and dispose of them properly. So if you have any questions, you can write questions or comments on this Facebook post. If not, you can send me an email at shannonw@uidaho.edu. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you for watching At the Corrals.